and he's graciously agreed to do 2 hours of ethics for us today. So he's also an adjunct professor at UVA Wise and Regent Law School where he went. So thank you for agreeing to speak today. We appreciate you, and Chuck Slemp, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Rachel is tremendous for putting this all together, so let's give Rachel a big round of applause. And how about the Wise Inn? Don't you love being here? I love this place. This is, I guess, one of, well, let me begin by looking here at the picture on the wall. This is Tim Cox's photography. Tim Cox is amazing. He's got this shot that was taken from the roof of my old law office across the street from the courthouse, and it features the inn, the courthouse, and Wise and downtown. We live in just such a wonderful, beautiful place, and it's so awesome that we can showcase this region as part of this program. So thank you, Rachel, for putting it out there and having Wise County featured as part of the CLE for the Young Lawyers Conference. So, who came the farthest? Let's see. Now, I know we got some from Abingdon, we got some from Lee, some Kingsport. Okay, great. Grundy. I think you might win. Even though it's not that far, it's just far to get there, right? Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. And I'm going to put my phone here to kind of keep track. And we got 2 hours to talk about ethics. How about that, right? Go ahead, Kristen. Kristen is going to help me with my PowerPoint. So, here's what we've got. Today, we're talking about the title of the program. Our whole program is Getting the Most for Your Clients. So, when we're talking about ethics and talking about getting the most for your clients, a lot of times when we go to CLEs, and I don't know if you're like me, when I go to CLE programs and there's an hour of ethics, and it's the scenarios on the board, and everybody has to sit there quietly and read the scenario on the board and then come up with the answer, and then they do the clickers. I don't know, that's good, but that's not what this is today. I can't do the scenarios as well as everybody else does. This is going to be a little bit different type of CLE for ethics. It's about doing the right thing every time. Now, you might say that's what the ethics rules are all about anyway. You might say that's what you're supposed to do as a lawyer anyway. So let's think about it in terms of outside the box, your daily practice. I know we got folks here that do Social Security law. We got folks here that do custody and criminal law. We got prosecutors. We got defense attorneys. So we got a whole different mix, civil, criminal. So think about your own practice, where you're at in your law, whether it is you're prosecuting cases or whether you're defending or whether you're working with a corporate client. How do you get the most for your clients by doing the right thing every time? All right, that's what today's CLE is all about. Now, let me begin by saying this. I realize it's 2 hours of ethics, and I realize that might put people to sleep. So I'll do the most to try to make it entertaining. Let me begin by saying this. When I first got asked to do the presentation, and Rachel said, do as long as you want, an hour, 2 hours, whatever, I said, oh, sure, put me down for as much time as you need. She said, all right, I'll put you down for 2 hours. And then I sat down at my desk and started thinking, oh God, what did I sign up for? And then I called my wife and I said, all right, so I'm working on this presentation. I might be a little late tonight. I got to come up with a way to fill 2 hours of ethics. And she said, oh, you can talk all the time. No worries there. You can fill 2 hours easy. Seth reminded me of that earlier this morning. Seth Baker, everybody. Seth was talking about how when I used to do guardian ad litem work, I used to talk forever during my closing arguments. No comments. Amy in the corner over here. So I'll try my best not to put you asleep. Let's talk about, though, why it's important not to fall asleep, and that is from this particular case of this snoring lawyer who actually fell asleep during a CLE. Now this is an article, and I'm going to read this from 2014. A lawyer went to a CLE seminar in Virginia. As described in the disciplinary opinion, during the morning session, the lawyer fell asleep and began snoring, and causing the seminar's coordinator to intervene to wake him. Things went from bad to worse in the afternoon session when the lawyer began talking loudly at a video presentation and continued to do so after the seminar's coordinator asked him to stop. In response to the lawyer's continued outbursts, another attendee led him out of the room. The attendee smelled alcohol on the lawyer's person, and then he admitted to one attendee that he had been drinking. Now, nobody go visit the tap room downstairs at lunch. In Virginia, the state bar inquiries, first the lawyer denied everything, being intoxicated, falling asleep, snoring, and that denial started the snowball rolling. So, one, if you sleep, just be honest about it here today, okay? No snoring, but just be honest about it. And then later, the lawyer had to admit that those representations were not accurate. And he lied about it. And further, that he did not take steps necessary to correct his misrepresentations. Now, he's also licensed in D.C. as well as Virginia, so he got a double whammy. He got suspended in Virginia and in the District of Columbia. The moral of the story, and the article, if you read it, it's in the PowerPoint slides, is disciplinary matters, you got to be straightforward whether you snore or not. So be honest today. If you're going to snore, that's okay. Just be honest about it. Now, let me say we're at a CLE presentation, a bunch of lawyers in the room, and we're talking about ethics. And not only do you hear about ethics from another lawyer, you hear about ethics from a lawyer turned politician, right? And I apologize in advance. This is ethics, and I'll do my best. No lawyer jokes. Well, actually, maybe a couple. What's the difference between an accountant and a lawyer? Anybody? Accountants know they're boring. What do you call a smiling, courteous, and honest person at a bar association meeting or a CLE? The caterer. And just for good measure, how many lawyer jokes are there? No, you'll know this one? Only 3, the rest are real stories. I'm not going to tell one about what lawyers and sperm have in common. We'll save that for the end if you're still awake. All right. While we're talking about lawyer jokes, it's not just a funny matter. This is kind of, it's funny when you think about it, but not funny for the actual client whose lawyer fell asleep during his trial. Now, this is a real case from the 4th Circuit, 2016, and this is the opinion. Of course, this is the end of the story. We believe that when counsel for a criminal defendant sleeps through a substantial portion of the trial, such conduct compromises the reliability of the trial. Go figure, right? And thus, no separate showing of prejudice is necessary. Let's talk about the facts of this Reagan case real quick. I don't know, did y'all hear about this Reagan case? No? So Reagan pleaded not guilty. He was tried before a jury along with 3 other co-defendants. It was, if this doesn't keep you awake, I don't know what will. This was a conspiracy to commit prostitution and coercing person to travel interstate to engage in prostitution with minors. Now, the trial lasted several weeks, April 3rd to the 21st, and it included testimony of about 40 witnesses, so it was a long ordeal. And at the conclusion of the trial, the jury found Reagan guilty, along with the other co-defendants, on both of his charges. Not all of the witnesses testified to things that were relevant toward Reagan, just about 8 of the 40. So after the trial, Reagan submitted a handwritten letter to the court saying that his lawyer fell asleep during the trial. Of course, your clients are going to make stuff up all the time, right? After they lose. Well, the problem is this wasn't really made up. Reagan alleged, among other things, the lawyer, quote, even had the audacity to sleep twice during the trial. Now, if you read the opinion, I got it here, I'm just going to take a snippet of it. Reagan filed a claim for ineffective assistance of counsel, obviously, and at the evidentiary hearing, he had witnesses that testified on his behalf that his lawyer was definitely sleeping. But then, and this is the quote here, I love this. His witness testified that during the prosecution's case in chief, government counsel approached the lawyer to show him an exhibit that they had to introduce. The government counsel walked over to the lawyer, and I remember that lawyer was sitting back, leaning back in his chair with his left elbow on his left thigh, sort of with his chin resting on his fist. And then the government counsel held out a document in front of him. He didn't move. He just sat there. Judge Conrad leaned into the microphone. We were all sitting there, and the lawyer wasn't moving. And Judge Conrad said, "Mr. Mackey," very loudly. Mackey then jumped up, sort of looked around, was licking his lips and mouth, and looked sort of confused, looked all over the room except at the government's counsel who was right in front of him. And after a few seconds, he saw government counsel standing there and looked at the document. That was what their witness testified to. Now, even the government's witnesses testified, and one said that he actually saw the lawyer nod off on at least one, possibly two occasions. He described nodding off as his eyes kind of closed, his head drooping, struggling to stay awake. As one witness testified, counsel was asleep frequently, almost every day, morning and evening, for 30 minutes at least at a time. Wow. So that's the testimony from Reagan. It's not a joke. It's not good. It's ineffective assistance of counsel is what they rule. Obviously, effective assistance of counsel is something that's a big deal. And this whole presentation is not about effective assistance of counsel, but we're leading off with this discussion. We know the standards set forth in Strickland about the Sixth Amendment. But let's read the Sixth Amendment just for good measure. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right of speedy trial, public trial, all of this, all the way down to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Now, I've got two little boys, 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And my sons, Cameron and Colin. Now, I remember Cameron was born the year that I was finishing law school, taking the bar exam, going through all that whole ordeal to actually make the 3 years or more worth it. And I remember reading Strickland and other cases, holding my newborn while getting ready for the bar exam. And I think about that moment and think, I remember one particular day when Cameron was waking up in the middle of the night, and literally I got pooped on in the middle of the night, and thinking, God, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Anybody ever had that freak out moment in law school, right? Anybody had that freak out moment today? What am I doing? Thank God for coffee. And I learned to drink coffee during that year. I hated it beforehand. We all go back in time and think. Rachel Glines is here with me today. Rachel's a student at UVA-Wise, and I invited her to come along because she wants to go to law school. And I figured, what better way to either motivate her to go or not to go unless you be around other lawyers, especially when you talk about CLEs. Look what you have to look forward to. So Rachel actually had her phone and had a picture of me in college. She won't share with everyone. And I was 19 out at UVA-Wise. She found it at UVA-Wise. It was somewhere over there in the yearbook. And I think back to that moment in time. I wanted to be a lawyer. Why did I want to be a lawyer? Y'all remember that? How many of y'all wanted to be a lawyer since you were just a little kid? All of you? Joey? Yeah. I did. You know, I don't know why. My dad was an accountant. Maybe that's why. Numbers. I wanted to get away from numbers. And I remember I wanted to be a lawyer. Donnie. I remember Donnie worked for my dad. And when Donnie went to law school, I remember that. And I remember how cool that was. And I wanted to be a lawyer. And that was really cool. Now, not just because of that, but because, Donnie, you're part of my inspiration. Thanks, I guess. Oh my God, somebody said. No, but you think about it. You look into the individuals in your community that you look up to, especially when you were little. And those individuals who have an impact on your life. And I don't know about you, but for me, they were lawyers. Joey, for instance, when he was Commonwealth Attorney and I was out here at UVA Wise, invited me to come and walk around the courthouse and watch cases. Rachel, your father, asked me to come and work reception at Wolf and Farmer at the time. And that was an experience. And you know how cool it was to see that as lawyers, we weren't just doing a job to make money. We were doing a job, or they were doing a job because they cared about their community. They were leaders in their community. They wanted to make a difference in other people's lives. So I want you to just take a moment and think about your practice, how you got to where you are today. Whether it's somebody inspired you or maybe, I remember my first day of law school, we were going around the room and this was the Foundations of Law class at Regent University. And they had everybody there and you were supposed to say a little bit about yourself and why you were in law school. And that was really inspirational until we got to this one guy who said, yeah, my dad wanted me to be a lawyer. And this next guy said, yeah, I want to make a lot of money. And of course they were being honest, right? I guess they do well in ethics class, right? They're being honest. But that's not why I wanted to be a lawyer. I don't know about you. I wanted to be a lawyer because I saw in the law you have an opportunity to affect people's lives when their life is out of control, when their family's tearing apart, when they're in the most trouble of their life. Maybe somebody broke into their home and they're looking for justice. Maybe they've been injured and they just need to be made whole. And the law gives us that opportunity, right? So, we as lawyers sometimes have that moment, that freak out moment of, God, what am I doing? Right? And where's the next cup of coffee? It happens to us more often than we think. And today's title of our presentation is Doing the Right Thing Every Time and Getting the Most for Your Clients. And I wonder if sometimes in our practice, in our lives, if we grab another cup of coffee, take a step back, and look at why we became lawyers in the first place. So I want you to take just a second right now, grab your notepad, get with your table, and think about why you became a lawyer and what you do in your practice to do the right thing. What is ethics and get the most for your client? All right? Think about that. Write it down. Talk amongst yourselves for half a second. Actually, for a minute. Talk amongst yourselves. Doing the right thing. And getting the most for your client. Okay, I'm going to call it time. Okay, y'all figure out the best answer at your table.
No.
No?
Place it in pounds.
Carl, I love you, Carl. Okay, and something about me and my ethics that you don't know. I go to church with Carl.
Have we got a duty to report that?
Duty to report that, right? Exactly. Let's hit the next slide. I'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll talk and we'll share your stories. Okay. Now let me think. Go back once. Let's see. I must have skipped one. Okay, so the preamble. For some reason, one of the slides is missing. So let me read this. The preamble to the Virginia Rules of Professional Conduct. Have y'all ever read that? Anybody ever read the preamble to the rules? Everybody just reads the rules, right? Nobody reads the preamble to anything. So the preamble begins with, a lawyer is a representative of clients or a neutral third party, an officer of the legal system and a public system having a special responsibility for the quality of justice. Next slide. No, that's this slide. And in all professional functions, a lawyer should be competent, prompt, and diligent. The next part here, As a public citizen, a lawyer should seek improvement of the law, the administration of justice, the quality of service rendered by the legal profession. A lawyer is also guided by his personal conscience and by the approbation of professional peers. A lawyer should strive to attain the highest level of skill to improve the law, the legal profession, and to exemplify the legal profession's ideals of public service. That's what we're talking about, right? Your inspirational story, when you think about it, do you think about those things? Now, some of you might have a funny story about a particular lawyer that you admire. But ultimately, when we look at what we're trying to do in the legal profession, we're representing other individuals in their worst moment in life, trying to make their lives better, and trying to exemplify ideals of serving the public, of working for someone else. You know, it's a selfless thing to work for someone else, right? To serve others. My wife bought me a book. It's called the Love Languages, something about love languages. I've read it. 5 love languages. Have y'all read that? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Some is, acts of service, physical touch, being together, that kind of thing. Acts of service is one way that you can show individuals love. And that's what our profession is all about. It's serving others. Next slide. Now, let's talk about a couple other things first. And that these come from some authors who aren't lawyers that talk about what it is to do good for other individuals in their life. First, John Maxwell's book, Winning with People. I'm going to quote it a couple times today. This one, all of life's successes come from initiating relationships with the right people and then strengthening those relationships by using good people skills. Those rules apply to whoever you're working with, other lawyers, the clerk's office, the bailiffs, and even your clients. Napoleon Hill, a Wise County guy, said in Keys to Success, render more and better service than you are paid for, and sooner or later you'll receive compound interest from your investment. Now, this is one of the principles that when I started practicing law and I hung a shingle and opened up my practice, I said, all right, I don't know everything. I almost don't know anything about anything. But I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to work harder than anybody in the bar and try to do a good job. And I'm probably not going to get paid very much for it because I'm going to put in more hours than I'm worth, essentially, right? But I was investing in my clients, investing in my firm, investing in my future and the future of others by working harder and doing more than I was paid for, by taking every phone call and calling folks back, by sending letters to clients and making sure that they were up to date on what was going on in their particular case. And I guess this comes back from my raising and one principle from the book of Galatians. Galatians 6:7 that says, whatever a man sows, that's what he's going to reap. Whatever you put into it, that's what you're going to get out. If you put in, a half-hearted effort, what are you going to get out in return? I like this. This is a political cartoon. If you can't read it, it says, and if you don't have an attorney, we've got millions of them. Okay, so now's about the time that I'd like you all to pick one person to share an inspirational moment from your table about getting the most for your client and an example. So I'm going to go around. Somebody raise their hand from your table. First hand that goes up goes first.
Donnie Williams.
Donnie Williams. Y'all's table. Okay, and if you don't want to do an inspirational story, you can just say, if you had to do a 1, 2, 3, or just a one principle about getting the most for your client, what would that one principle be?
Winning.
Winning? Okay, that's winning.
Redoing the guidelines.
Redoing the guidelines. There you go. Yeah.
I just did that. Yeah.
Treating the
So
client
you
with
win or
respect.
lose if they know that you respect them, it's a better outcome for you.
So everybody might not have heard that. Treating the client with respect. If you put in a whole lot of work and you are there with them, they, regardless of the outcome, they at least know that you've worked for them and they might respond better to the outcome. Conversely, if you sleep through your trial, you might get a bar complaint. Others? Okay, so I went through the rules. As y'all see from the materials we've got, the rules are kind of grouped into do's and don'ts, right? I've kind of boiled it down into 4 do's or B's, all right? And a couple of them, because I couldn't just make them 4, are lumped together. So, number 1, obviously you need to be competent and prepared. That's one principle. Number 2, you got to be diligent with what you're doing. Number 3, you got to be compassionate and actually care, and that goes to what Martha said. You got to be truthful and loyal. Those are simple principles to live by, right? Did anybody talk about those things when you talk about your inspirational person or your inspirational story about why you want to be a lawyer? Or about how you get the most for your clients? It's this, right? My principle is this. In practicing law, whether it was in private practice or now as Commonwealth's attorney, I always try to be the kind of lawyer that I would want if I needed one. So I used that principle when I was in private practice, opening up my firm, trying to figure out what the heck I was doing. What would I want my lawyer to do for me? Well, I want my lawyer to call me back. I want my lawyer to answer a question in a way that I can understand it. I want my lawyer to send me a letter and remind me of my court date, because we all know clients forget those things. Also, as a lawyer, that helps you cover yourself knowing that you communicated to your lawyer, which is one of the rules. It's doing the right thing, right? It's the golden rule. You do unto others as you want to have done. That's the principle we're talking about. Always try to be the kind of lawyer you would want if you need one. Now, juvenile court? Did 2? Did not? Okay, double meaning juvenile court. How about the next one? Sustained. Prosecution will refrain from going dun-dun-dun during witness testimony. Nobody do that to me, please. I'll try not to do that to you. And the next one has a story. Oh, gosh, that was supposed to be earlier. These slides all messed up. Let me tell you about my freak out moment this morning, right? I get to the office and get ready to load the PowerPoint up on a disk to bring it over here, and it wouldn't work. And all these 130 some slides were gone. And I had like the moment of get down on my knees and start praying right that second. Something's gotta work. But finally it did. A few of them are out of order, like this one. Let's go to the next slide. Now, here we go. This is what I want to say. Be the kind of lawyer you would want if you need one. Now, this has a story. Colin, my 4-year-old, loves Batman. And Batman's a superhero, right? He dresses up, actually for like the past 3 Halloweens, he wants to be Batman. Again, he wants to be Batman. So he started carrying around these 2 Lego figures everywhere he goes. Batman and then this other guy. And I asked him one day, who's this other guy? And he said, it's the Commonwealth's attorney. And then of course my heart melted. It's his superhero, right? He's got a tie. It actually has a utility belt and a ruler. I don't know. Maybe this is Josh Newberry. Let me tell you, I don't know, my kids are secretly plotting my demise or something. I was driving through town the other day, and I heard Cameron saying in the back seat to Colin, wonder who's going to be the next Commonwealth attorney after Daddy. What's that? Then I go home, and the driveway, we got a bunch of old campaign signs that are in the building, like hundreds of campaign signs that are in the building. And I come home, and they're lining the driveway. Cameron had been out and sticking them down in the driveway. Literally, it's like the sign wars from campaigns, you know, not an inch untouched by a political sign. And I come up, and I was like, what are you doing, buddy? And he said, I'm campaigning. I said, oh, great. Re-election is not for 3 years. little man? And he says, no, these don't say Chuck Slemp for Commonwealth Attorney. These say Cameron Slemp for Commonwealth Attorney. So he has imagined me right out of the picture. But that's pretty cool. Yeah, of course, we want our kids to look at us as role models, but that's pretty amazing. They see that as, and I'm really, really touched by that, as their role model, or more or less as a hero figure. And you as a lawyer are a hero figure, even though sometimes our world and our society doesn't recognize us as heroes in a lot of ways. We come up with funny lawyer jokes like this one. A lawyer dies and goes to heaven, and he meets St. Peter at the pearly gates, and notices that in his registration papers it says lawyer's name 99 years old. And he goes to St. Peter and says, whoa, 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 whoa. I wasn't 99. I was just 55. So I've got some more time on earth, right? 44 more years. And St. Peter says, well, that's weird. We added up all your timesheets and got that you were 99.